been a while since I've done any type of Dragon Ball content on this channel. So, hello, YouTubers. I'm sure you guys have been deprived because, as you may have noticed, I haven't been doing anything in related to the game lately except running tournaments. I still ran Combo Breaker. I'm still running Evo in August. But in terms of like just like regular live stream content, I'm not really doing much. Why is that? We're going to talk a little bit about this thread that I made a few days ago, where I asked the people that when the patch was announced, that has been played on for about a month now, a month-ish. I think it's a month and a few days. When that patch got announced and it announced that rollback was getting pushed back, there was a lot of people that said, "Oh, I prefer it this way." Right? I prefer there to be a patch instead of rollback. And as someone who has poured a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of effort into the competitive community for Dragon Ball Fighters, it just didn't really sit right with me because I feel like people's reasoning is like kind of off kilter. It is more than you're more than welcome to prefer one over the other. But I think if we're talking about what's best for the community, I think we need to like actually have a discussion about that. And that's kind of what this video is going to be. There's a lot of replies in this thread, and I'm going to go over them all. And so, yeah, I don't know how long this video will be, but we can just kind of start. So the prompt was, this is in no way a gotcha, but I'm genuinely curious if the DBFZ players who prefer to patch first instead of rollback still feel that way or have changed their mind. It's been about a month, and people change, right? Sometimes you think you want one thing and then the reality sets in and maybe you want the other thing instead. And I'm sure this has happened both ways as well. There's probably people who at the time said that, I prefer the patch, now they want rollback instead, and vice versa. People that maybe thought that they wanted rollback first, but after the patch drop, maybe they found a newfound love for the game or whatever. And so it definitely goes both ways. And I'm going to try to cover all perspectives. This is not like rhetoric. Like it's not rhetoric. I'm not trying to convince you guys of anything. I simply want to give you my thoughts, and whether you think my thoughts are valuable or not, it's completely up to you. It just be like that. Okay, so the first response is actually really funny. It's from Cali Mack, and I think this is really funny that this showed up first because a lot of people feel this way. A lot of people feel this way about the patch dropped, and they dropped it at the same time as the rollback delay announcement, and that was by design. They wanted to make you forget that they were pushing back rollback by giving you a patch. And the problem is that the patch itself is very it's like you ever like have to turn in an assignment for school and you realize that you have to turn it in for by midnight and it's 11:50, right? That's kind of what I think about the latest Dragon Ball Fighters patch. It just seems very oh shit, we have to give them something or else they're literally going to tear down Bandai headquarters, just change some shit and put it in the game. And then we'll tell them that we'll change it again at a later time so we don't have to take any type of accountability if this patch is dog shit. And so that's how I feel about like why the patch happened and why it is here. Okay, so 100% changes his mind, it be like that. This is a common sentiment amongst competitors, right? Because you got to understand that in terms of being a competitive player or being a content creator, even, right, a new patch is a pretty big deal, even if it doesn't change that much. Because the way that content works is, nowadays you're always trying to capitalize on the cutting edge, what feels new, what feels exciting, right? Fighting against stagnation, right? Making people feel like they're a part of something brand new or something that feels fresh, right? And so a new patch is a big deal for people like us because that's a whole new content cycle. I'm sure you guys have seen videos of many content creators literally make a ton of different videos for each individual character and what changes they were. It might have only been 1 or 2 changes, but people click on those videos and they want to see it. And that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal, especially in fighting games where like the content space is not very, like, it's not big compared to other games. and there's not a ton of money, right? Unless you're like ultra big, and there's not that many people that are ultra big in fighting games, honestly, at least in the grand scheme of things. So it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal for us. And so I definitely can understand why Cali might have felt at the time, I want a new patch, especially because, people were talking about how much they hated fighting Fusion's lab coat, this and that, right? And, that kind of that kind of sentiment was kind of perpetuated. It was talked about. It was talked about quite a lot. People definitely were very vocal about they don't like the meta, they don't like this, they don't like that, and we will kind of cover what I mean in regards to that as we go along, because like I said, there's a lot to cover. But I do respect Cali a lot for this. I really do. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness, and just like there's a lot of people that will never admit that they were wrong, or they feel differently now about back then. For what it's worth, some people will treat this as a bad thing. Some people will be like, oh, you switched up, which I think is weird. Like I think that's weird that people treat it like that, because like I think one of the best qualities in people is being able to take in new data, and maybe your opinion changes on that new data. We learn as we go along, right? You don't have to stay locked into a single opinion for the rest of your life. And so like, yeah, I don't think this is a bad thing at all. And it's totally respectable that he felt that way at the time, and that he also feels that way now, especially with some external factors that we'll talk about as we go along. But let's go to the next one. So this is from Long John Cena. Long John Cena is also a tournament player. And he, I think, I don't remember if he actually played at Combo Breaker. I know he signed up. I don't know if he actually played. Because Combo Breaker was on the previous patch, like, because they dropped it at the worst time possible. It's actually like so annoying. I don't know why they did that, but let's talk about his take. So he says, preferred patch first if simultaneous was not an option. A stale game with rollback is still a stale game. I stand by that. I've had more fun with DBFZ the last month or so than you've had in over a year, even if the patch isn't exactly what I was looking for. So there's a few different things that I kind of took issue with on this. And like I said, whenever I say I take issue with something, I'm not saying he's not free to have this opinion. He's absolutely free to. People are their own people. You can think whatever way you want to think. But I think my lens, right? My lens in regards to this game is someone that wants to succeed. And I'm thinking about like what needs to happen to kind of pull it back from the negative decision making that Bandai has made over the past few years. And so like that's kind of the lens that I'm looking for. And like that's not common, right? There's not a lot of people that are as concerned with that as I am. In fact, I would argue that there's no one more concerned about that than I am, to be honest. Like literally no one. You want to argue with me on that, you can do that, but I don't think you'll find someone. I'll show you my parsec bills to prove it. And so yeah, so first thing is preferred patch first if simultaneous is not an option. I want to address this first because a lot of people kind of brought up this idea, and this was never an option to begin with, right? And I think people are, this is kind of a like kind of copium. Kind of copium in a way. Avenge, thank you so much for the tier 1. I appreciate you. Soul Song, also, what's up? I'm sorry I didn't greet you. And so like, yeah, so this was never an option in the first place. What people need to understand is that rollback is something that was never even remotely close to finished, right? When it was announced. And I think like as time goes on, people are starting to realize that like it was announced at Evo last year. We're going on a year, right? It's getting close to a year since they announced rollback, right? It was nowhere near done. It was an announcement made strictly to hype people up and keep you guys on the ever-going treadmill, the treadmill of, is there going to be something new for the game? Oh my God, are they going to do a patch? Are they going to do, I need this, I need that, right? They're trying to keep you guys on the game. And the reason that is because the idea of conversions, right? Trying to convert Dragon Ball FighterZ players to other Dragon Ball games that are releasing, i.e. Tenkaichi 4, Xenoverse 3, all that, right? And keep in mind, the thing that was supposed to be out by now was the beta. We didn't even get to test it, right? It's not even like, oh, maybe the rollback was really bad, but we realized that after we tested it. The beta test itself got pushed back, meaning that we're waiting for the beta, and then we're going to have to do more waiting for the rollback afterwards. So it could actually be a pretty long time before rollback actually comes out, because That's just kind of the way things work. So yeah, the patch first, the simultaneous patch thing, to me, it was never an option. Rollback just, it wasn't ready, and for that reason, I think they really should have not announced it at that last Evo. I think they've caused more damage announcing it at last Evo than good, because now people feel strung along, right? And they feel like that when you announce Rollback, you give people a light at the end of the tunnel, something to look forward to. And what a lot of people feel like now is that they've been cheated, right? Because you announced the date, you said, oh, it's going to be in spring, and they push it back, and they push it back, and they push it back, push it back. Happy summer, by the way. It's now summer. Shout out to summer. But yeah, it's it's very, very interesting timing to do this video, because, you know, spring has ended, and they initially said that the Rollback beta would be in spring. By design, I'm just saying. But yeah, okay. So the next thing is, a stale game with Rollback is still a stale game. This is actually not true. I actually disagree with this to some extent. So if the meta is actually stale, so like you have to understand, like you have to define what stale means. What does stale mean? Games can be considered stale for a lot of different reasons. And one of the most important reasons why the game might feel stale is because the Dragon Ball FighterZ community has not seen significant growth in a long time, especially the competitive Dragon Ball FighterZ scene. If you look at tournaments for the past like year or 2 years, it's the same people. It's the same people or even less. Like, tournaments are shrinking for this game. CEO is only like 120 or 130 people this weekend, right? Combo Breaker was shy of 200. It's shrinking, right? And it's because people are going to different options. They are picking different games. They are finding new interests, right? Because they are tired of feeling cheated by this company. And so what Rollback does, right, is it doesn't change the game itself, right? You might still be playing the same characters, you might be doing some of the similar things, but it actually brings a lot of new people into the scene that otherwise would not be able. You have to understand that there's a ton of people out there that would love to play the game, but they cannot, right? Because they live in a region that is underprivileged. They don't have locals, right? They can't play online because the netcode is so bad. And so they never got their shot to show what they could do. They never got the opportunity to actually play in a competitive environment against, you know, some of the regions that are considered the best in the world. And that's a big deal. That's a lot of people that are held back by this. And so I don't think that this is necessarily true, because I think the inclusion of those new people, and, you know, that kind of the opening of the gates would bring in like a breath of fresh air, and also create that feeling that like everyone is playing the game and everyone is like super passionate about it, which honestly to me has not, the game has not felt that way since like vanilla season 3. And it hasn't truly felt that way since season 2, but season 3, like, there was still a really good amount of people playing, and people were grinding, and people were passionate. And it's like, you can't really create that feeling anymore unless you find a way to get new people into the scene, because there's a lot of people that we've lost, right? There's a lot of great players, a lot of casuals that we've just lost to the void because, you know, this company just keeps fucking up over and over again. It's just like that. And so, like, I don't agree with this. We could have arguments over, you know, is the meta stale, this and that, right? I'm not really here to argue about that, but I don't think that this covers everything, right? I just don't think that this is necessarily like a catch-all statement. I stand by that. You've had more fun with DBFC the last month or so than you've had it over a year, even if the patch isn't exactly what you're looking for. So I actually addressed that down here. So I was talking about the stale rollback thing, right? Addressed that. And so this as well, right? So I kind of press on this topic a little bit. And so I was talking about the fact that, dude, is it possible that the reason that you're having more fun is just because, you know, when a new patch drops, there's like a honeymoon phase. There's a honeymoon phase where, you know, people are just trying to see what the patch even has to offer. And so there's like a certain amount of enjoyment to be gleaned from that in and of itself. It doesn't necessarily, like, it doesn't matter how good or bad the patch is in that case, right? Because for the first like few weeks, everyone is just like testing new shit and just finding out what characters can do. So it doesn't actually, like, the quality of the patch is not actually a factor there. It's like a honeymoon phase, like I said. So I do think that that's something important, because it's only been a month, right? It's only been a month since the patch. It actually hasn't even been a full month yet. And so I would argue that people are still in that honeymoon phase. And on top of that, there hasn't been a big tournament played on this patch yet. At least, like, a big tournament. We don't really have like super big tournaments anymore. Outside of like Evo or maybe the World Tour will actually like get people to play again. But I think that's something to consider, right? And that's exactly like the feeling that Bandai is looking to capitalize on whenever they do patches like this. And I just want people to really understand that. And so yeah, so we talked a little bit more. And so I was asking like, what did you like about the patch? What didn't you? Right? Because I was trying to pinpoint like what exactly is making him feel that way. And then he talked about the patch that turned the use of top tiers together. It never felt right that they also synergized so well with each other. I don't love that they doubled down on the scrambliness. You would prefer that tone down. So we're gonna see this sentiment echoed a lot. And I would argue that a lot of the reason that people even remotely like this patch at all is simply because they feel like Fusion Lab Code is weaker. And I think there's a fundamental issue with that approach for sure. And I will address that as time goes on, because like I said, it comes up a lot. But what I will say is that I don't agree with this, right? From a balance perspective, it never felt right that they synergized so well with each other. I feel like synergy is one of the more positive aspects of a team game. In fact, like I think one of the easiest ways or one of the most healthy ways to balance characters is to give them more synergy with more characters, so they're applicable on more comps and they're more flexible. People have more options. More options is usually a good thing in most cases, as long as the quality of those options is not complete dog shit and it's not overwhelming, right? And so like from a synergy standpoint, I think like you want characters to have more synergy. Taking synergy away from characters, I think, feels really bad in general, especially if it's done in the way that they did. But like I said, I'll talk about that in a later thread, because there's some takes in this thread, guys. There's some takes. But let's scroll down here. So we got Six Paths talking about, I believe I said you wanted to patch first instead of rollback, but now you're just done with the game, and whoever keeps making decisions over there when it comes to patches, they can go sit on a pine cone. I thought this was really funny. And even though I found this really funny, I think that this is more common than people think it is, right? There are people that said they wanted to patch first instead of rollback, but now they're not playing the game. I made a really funny comment. And also Shad made this comment as well. One of his thread. It's like, it's really funny that there were a lot of people that said they wanted to patch first, and those same people that said they wanted to patch first are now playing Street Fighter instead of Dragon Ball. They're playing the game with rollback instead of Dragon Ball Fighters. And like, that is not a coincidence, right? That's not a coincidence. I think it's easy to like get hyped up about changes to characters and stuff like that. And then immediately regret it afterwards, because like the thing that people don't understand is like, this would be a completely different conversation if Bandai did good patches. Can we agree on that? I think the dynamic of this entire situation would be completely different if Bandai actually put out quality patches. Honestly, I feel like they haven't put out a quality patch in a while, and so like that's why it feels that way. If we actually had something to look forward to, then it would be different. But because they keep doing the same types of things that people have been very vocal about not liking, right? People have been very vocal about the way the game is played for the past 2 years, and they keep doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down, and so like people are just gonna quit, right? They're just gonna quit, and they do quit. Like, people, I think, don't really understand that people do quit the game. They do, and it's more people than are actually joining the competitive scene of Dragon Ball Fighters, like 100%. And like I said, we can just look at metrics. I run all the tournaments. I run all the tournaments for this game. I know the numbers, and I know the trajectories, and that's why I want to have this conversation now. So if there's any even remote chance of like getting back on the right track, it has to start by people understanding each other's perspectives and trying to push for change. That's all we can do at this point. They said they're going to take feedback on the new patch. I don't know what type of feedback or who it's going to be from, but at the very least, all we can do is like have a dialogue and try to push it in the right direction, right? Okay. So from Zane, it sucks seeing people quit mainly because they don't enjoy it anymore. That's the main reason people quit. That's how that's why I quit. right? That's that's why I quit. I was very passionate about the game. I was. And they patched me out. And I accepted that. And I was okay with that, right? At first, it felt super fucking bad. But somewhere along the way, I was like, you know what? I just have to accept that the game is not for me anymore. And I have accepted that. And that is totally fine. But the crazy part is that they keep making decisions that even people that still like the game, they still hate the decisions, right? And that's a problem, right? That's an issue. That's an issue. If you're trying to maintain any type of community, any type of player base, you can't keep making decisions that put them off, right? Because there's too many good fighting games nowadays. There's too many options for you to be fucking around. In 2018, right, Dragon Ball could fuck around all it wanted because it's the most IP carried game of all time, and there's not that much competition, right? Not nearly as much. Nowadays, there's way more competition. Pretty much every major fighting game series has a new game that comes out that has come out in the past few years or is coming out in the next year. It's like you just can't afford to fuck up. Smash's IP carry is different because Smash is its own IP and it gets its IPs from others. So I think that dynamic's a little different, right? It's not like I think if Smash was OC, it would not do well. Like I think the whole appeal is that there's like just so many different characters from series that people like, but yeah, similar for sure. But Smash has some fantastic games though, honestly. I honestly think as video games, the Smash games are quite good. You can have arguments about whether they're good competitively or not, but I think as far as games go, they're much more complete experiences as video games, in most cases. But okay, so this is from Zane, and he says, in hindsight, now knowing Will's in the patch, you change your mind to rollback. I was hoping for less full screen everything from the patch, not more. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room, because a lot of you are probably going to say, well, you know, anyone can say anything with hindsight, right? And that's true. That's true, right? It's easy for people to say now that, you know, I would have preferred rollback now that they know the content of the patch, right? The issue, right, is that I think we could have seen this coming. That's kind of the issue that I have, right? Hindsight would diminish a lot of the validity of statements like this if Bandai has not made it completely clear how they want the game to be, and it's completely been doubling down and tripling down on these ideas for the past 2 years, right? They've been doing this since 3.5, since the patch before lab coat came out. The one that made the normals longer and the neutral skips, right? They've been doing that for 2 years. 2 years. I think it was August 2021 was the patch that first started it, right? So we're going on 2 years on that. So I feel like we could have seen this coming, but it's fine. It's fine that he feels that way. So I actually like talked to Zane a lot. I talked to Zane a lot in this thread because I was like really interested in his perspective here. And so one of the things that I address is, you know, I see a lot of people say, you know, I'm glad that rollback got pushed back because that means it'll be really good, right? And I feel like this logic is, it's not completely incorrect, but I think you also need to apply the logic to the patch as well, right? Like if the idea of, you know, things get to be better quality over time, like if more dev time is put into it, it will end up a higher quality project. If you're going to accept that sentiment, right, then you should also accept that sentiment for the patch as well, right? You should do that, right? Why is it only rollback that this gets applied to? So you think that the patch dropped out of the blue that clearly was low effort, and I'll explain why it's low effort down the line, but I don't think I think there's not many people that would argue with me that the patch was very thrown together, and they dropped it as an emergency tactic to make you forget about rollback getting pushed back. And so, you know, the moment I found out the date, like the announcement, right? The announcement was made on the 22nd, and they said it's dropping on the 23rd. I literally told my chat, because I was live when this dropped. I told my chat, this patch is gonna be dog shit. I told them, and they could attest. I said it. I said it's not gonna be good because they didn't take any time. They didn't take any time to throw this together. They didn't. It's literally just a contingency plan because they know they're gonna lose players. They know they're gonna lose players by pushing back rollback. There are people that would have quit right then and there. If you do this, if you push back rollback without announcing a patch, there are people that will drop the game and never come back, straight up. At least with releasing some type of patch, you keep some people on the game. That's the way. That's the business strategy here. And so yeah, I don't get why people only apply it to one end and not the other. I think it's fine to apply the logic, but I think it has to be both. I think you have to think the same way for the rollback as you do with the patch. Just that's just the way it goes, right? If we're speaking on principle. If we're not speaking on principle, then you know you can just say stuff if you want, but not really my not really my choice of taking on discourse. But so I ask him a little bit more. So he's asking. He says probably because the patch they announced the second patch, and like this second patch thing is also like, honestly, this is like the most manipulative shit ever. The whole we're gonna drop a patch and then do another patch at some point. They don't give a date, and it removes all accountability, right? By them saying, oh, there's gonna be a second patch, to a lot of people, that just removes any type of like oh, they're gonna do another patch, so it doesn't really matter the quality of this one, right? That's like the dynamic they're looking to create. Like, oh, it doesn't matter if it's complete and utter dog shit if you hate it, because we're gonna change the game anyway. And this is kind of a problem from a competitive standpoint as well, because like if I'm a competitor and I want to play the game in tournament, right, I am not super motivated to play this patch, right? Because there's stuff in the patch that I may not like, first of all, but the second thing is I know the game is going to be changing relatively soon again, right? And so taking all the time to learn all this stuff on this patch when we know that it's going to be changed soon is like something that a lot of people don't want to do, especially with other options of games to play. And so I think that's also a really unhealthy way for them to approach it, but it's just the way it is. The meter penalty patch did make the patch team unfinished. Yeah, so I actually think like no change exemplifies the laziness of the patch than the meter change. I'll talk about that in a bit, but who knows, funnily enough, I like the change more. The entire patch makes double fusion teams not as good. So this is like this is that sentiment that I said it gets echoed a lot about like the double fusion teams, the fusion lab code teams. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna ask him a little bit more. And I was saying, you like the outcome, right? You like the outcome, but not the change itself. And this matters, right? This matters a lot. It's not a matter of the goal in mind being satisfied is not enough, right? It's not enough to just address a problem and just like attack it and not care about anything else, right? Because for example, if we could just remove buttons. This is the analogy I always use. It's like, okay, lab coat infusions are so good, right? What if they just removed half the buttons from their kit? Like they just don't have those buttons anymore. Like Vegito literally doesn't have a 5M. You press 5M, nothing happens, right? It would address the outcome, right? He would be a very much worse character, straight up. But is that how games are balanced? And is that the way that companies should have mentalities about, right? No, absolutely not. It's completely ridiculous. You'd be fucking upset if that happened. You'd be 100% pissed if that happened, because that just doesn't make sense, right? And so you can't ignore the process of balancing something just because the outcome may have ended up the way that you want. And I don't think Zane is this way. I think he actually like thinks through, and that's why I was willing to engage in this conversation with him. And so like, yeah, we go back and forth for a while. And I was saying, you know, I'm a little bit worried about the feedback for the second patch, because like, who are they taking the feedback from, right? There's two problems. One, who are they taking the feedback from? And if it is competitive players, what happens if you've lost a lot of them, right? Because you're fucking around. If everyone is on Street Fighter and everyone is on KOF and everyone is on these other games, right? There's not many people like grinding the game to the point where they can give you good feedback, which means the chances of the patch actually addressing some of the issues of the game, the chances of that go down, right? Because people are just not playing, right? And that's kind of like the issue, right? That's like a big issue with Dragon Ball FighterZ right now. It's like, you can say you're going to do a second patch, but you really needed to knock it out of the park on the first patch to keep people playing in the first place. if you make them quit and they don't play the game, how are you going to get good feedback, right? People with 10 hours on the patch are going to be the ones giving you feedback. You're going to have to rely on Reddit and social media, and we know how that turns out. We've seen this before. And I just don't think it's a good way for them to go about it. But you know, it just be like that. So he says it's gonna be answered with time and whatnot. He still likes the game and wants to play it. I asked him about like what is it that still drives you, right? I asked him, is it characters? Is it, you know, just the feeling of competition? And he elaborated a little bit more. He says like it's the first thing he feels like he's like really good at, and like that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal as well. You know, a lot of people, Dragon Ball FighterZ is their first competitive fighting game, or the first competitive fighting game where they felt like they could actually like get something done in, and that is like totally valid feelings. I'm not mad at Zane for feeling this way at all. In fact, I say it's like totally reasonable for him to feel that way, and he can continue to feel that way. But I do think that like you need to realize that like that in and of itself is anecdotal, right? That is something that you might feel as an individual, but might not necessarily be what's best for the greater community, which is what I'm concerned with. I don't really care about anything else. If I cared about like how the game affected me personally, I would be out there pushing for them to like actually completely overhaul the game, and I'll be making posts here and there. And I've just accepted that like, you know, the game's just not going to be, it's not going to be for me. All right. But I still want it to be good for you guys. And that's why I'm even like doing videos like this in the first place. Okay. This one really bothered me. I can't lie. This one bothered me. So this is from KJ. He's a tournament player. And he says, I just needed something to get rid of lab coat fusions until rollback so the games could stop feeling so stale in tournament. And this patch accomplished that, albeit not in the best way. But that team is gone and my team is buffed, so it succeeded in holding me over until rollback. I think this is so selfish. I think that's the word that comes to mind. This is so incredibly selfish. He's pretty much saying like, my team is better and the characters that I don't like are not being played as much anymore, and so I'm okay with it. And I just think this is part of the reason that the game kind of went the way that it did in the first place, is because people are so concerned with outcomes. They're not concerned with the process, right? What people need to understand about lab coat fusions is like, yes, they were absolutely the strongest characters in the game, but there's a lot of people that love those characters, right? There are a lot, especially the fusions, right? Lab coat is OC, and so like, you know, she didn't have any prior fan base to this game, but the fusions absolutely do. The fusions are the most popular characters in Dragon Ball as an IP. And so like there's a lot of people that love playing those characters legitimately, regardless of whether they're strong or not strong. And when you're balancing a game, Cali, thank you for the raid. When you're balancing a game, you have to think about, you know, how it's not just balance in and of itself. It's also, do people enjoy playing the characters? Do they have fun playing these characters? And that's why like things like the meter nerf, I think, are like so brain dead, because there was just there's no thought put into it. Yeah, you made them worse characters, but it was in the least inspired and least thoughtful way possible. Like you just cut their meter in half. It's not even like you didn't even make exceptions for, you know, maybe they build less meter while doing combos. They build less meter for walking forward than other characters. Does that really make sense? I feel like that doesn't make any sense at all. And so like I just don't think it is a matter of, you know, the outcome that I wanted is how the game is, and so it's fine. Like, I don't know, it's just very selfish. You're not concerned with the longevity of the game. You're just playing for in the moment, and he's more than welcome to feel that way. He's 100% welcome to feel that way. His opinion is not invalid because of that. I just think if you're really concerned for the game of Dragon Ball FighterZ and you want it to succeed down the line, you can't think like this. You should always be thinking about what is for the greater good of the game, even if those changes are not exactly what you want. And that's just what it means to be a part of a community. And that's why I pry a little bit and I say, removing your character bias from the equation. Do you think if you played this patch for a year, you'd feel the same way? It's only been a month, right? So people might feel this way now about the patch, but a year, if you played this patch for a year, do you think the same things wouldn't happen? I would argue that they probably would. I think they would. But it'd be like that. But he says it feel like the meta would get draining eventually. If you played it for a year, it might get tiresome. But you genuinely don't think it's as bad as last patch, because while it would get stale, it would take longer. It would likely take longer to do so. I don't really know what this is rooted in. Like, I don't know why he thinks it would take longer to do so. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just because how long he's been playing against lab coat fusions. Perhaps it has been, I think, a year. I think it's been a year since lab coat fusion meta was really, maybe even a little bit longer. Year and a half probably. So maybe that's why he feels that way. But I do think that like this feeling of, oh my god, I hate the top tiers nerfed to the ground, it's like a sentiment that gets expressed by Dragon Ball FighterZ players once any amount of time has passed from the initial honeymoon phase of a patch, right? Like it happens every single patch. And I can't stress that enough. Every patch, people are like, bro, fuck these top tiers, nerf them. I'm tired of playing against this shit. They do it every time, right? It's not to the same extent as lab coat fusions. I'm not gonna like act like it's it's exactly the same every single time, but like it does happen, right? And it happens with not just one person. There's a lot of people that do that. He says he is concerned about people losing interest. Obviously, some people are busy playing SS6, but some of them are fed up with the game and have lost their drive to play. So it worries you that could happen if we go too long without rollback and or another patch. So this statement, right, shows actual concern for the greater community and the longevity of the game. But it's like weird that you could have this sentiment and this sentiment at the same time, because this one was saying, fuck you guys, my team is cracked. And this one is saying, oh, I'm actually worried that people will leave and go play other stuff. But like doing this to these characters in this way, right? Those people that love these characters don't deserve to feel penalized for liking those characters. They can change the character, right? They can change the characters if they would like to. If they need to rework their kits or change some frame data or whatever, that's something that is like normal and healthy for a fighting game. Just going and saying, oh, you build less meter just doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that's not fun for anyone. That's like literally not fun for anyone. You know how many people I've seen playing the new patch, and when they get hit by a lab coat or fusion, they're in awe. They're like, oh my god, I can't believe he built so little meter. It's like they're not even, it's not even fun. It's like it's flabbergasting. Like it doesn't even look right. It doesn't look right at all. And so like I think it's weird. It's weird that KJ would have both of those in the same conversation, in the same thread. And so like maybe he does have some type of concern, but maybe he was just so frustrated with the meta at the time that he just didn't care what the hell happened. But you should always care. I think you should always care. That's just the way I feel. Vermeer says, I would prefer a patch if it actually fixed the game. Sadly, it was the exact opposite. So this was something I had to press him on, because like I think there's no way, right? There's no like fixing the game at this point, right? A lot of people, whenever they say fix the game, they're saying, I liked the game in a previous iteration. I wish it was more like that. And that is totally valid, by the way. That is totally valid for you to be like, I like the way the game was before. I don't like it as much now. I wish it was like that. But how likely is that, right? The problem is, how likely is that? He wants it to be more like, season 3. And, they've been making these changes. They've been making these changes for the way the game is now for like 2 years now. Right. And so like that's why I was like, how likely is it really? Like how likely is it to fix the game? To me, it's impossible, right? They very clearly want the game to be the way that it is, and so they're going to continue making changes that make the game that way. That's just the way it goes, right? And you have to either accept that, you have to accept it or leave it, right? It's very take it or leave it state of the game right now, which is bad. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing for a lot of different reasons. But it is what it is, right? It's just how it goes. He says, I had some hope considering the community was very vocal about what needed to be fixed, but it's very clear now what they want the game to be, right? And I think this is something that's really frustrating to a lot of players, is that it feels like we've been complaining about, the way things are for a while, right? We've been complaining about, man, why does this go full screen? Why does this go through projectiles? Why does this have this many properties, this and that, right? People have been talking about that for a long time, and they still just keep giving more characters it instead of reducing the potency of those. And so like it feels like people are trapped, right? They'll never escape it. Just be like that. He says you would probably take rollback now, as you think this patch is definitely better than the Fusion Lab Coat patch. This is actually interesting. This is an interesting one. I think like probably if you ask most Dragon Ball FighterZ players, they'll probably say that this patch is better than the last one. But I wonder if that's literally just because they were playing against lab coat fusions for so long. I feel like a lot of Dragon Ball FighterZ players, this is a tangent by the way, I feel like a lot of Dragon Ball FighterZ players are fans of change for the sake of change, if that makes sense. It feels like a lot of people just want things to change for in some way, regardless of the quality of those changes, and that's like kind of an issue, because you create this dynamic where, like, you know, let's just change some shit. We're not actually going to care about, does it make the game more sound competitively, does it make the game more fun for more people. Just change it for the sake of change, and a lot of people feel that way, and I think that's really unhealthy, and for that reason Bandai can get away with a lot of shit. They can get away with a lot of shit, because people feel that way, and so you have to attack it at its root if you want to get anywhere. But yeah, so then I press a little bit further, because the question I love asking people, I love asking this question to people: if this patch was the final patch for the game, would you feel satisfied? Be honest. I'm gonna ask you guys in chat, if Dragon Ball FighterZ never got another patch ever again, would you be okay with it? Right? Because in my eyes, right, the only patch that's a good patch is the one where most people say yes. Right? Am I incorrect in that thinking? I think that, right, if you want to judge the quality of changes or judge the quality of patch, right, especially this late into the game, because it is 5 years into the game. It's 5 years into the game. If I ask you, would you be satisfied playing this for the rest of the game's life, and you tell me no, to me, they failed. They failed, right? And they've been failing. They've been failing. Because that's the place that it needs to get, right? That's where we need to get with all of this. Sorry, let me adjust some stuff in chat. They really should have brought the rest of the cast to Elsie's level instead of nerfing too hard. That's actually, you know, it's funny that you say that. I think it's actually the opposite. I think trying to make every character to that level will just result in everyone hating every character and not enjoying themselves. Because, you know, the idea is that if you make every character on the same level of the top tiers, that quality of life goes up. That's a theoretical thing. It doesn't actually work like that. What actually happens, if every character is dumb, nobody has fun at all. Just like nobody. And so that's why, like, most games have to nerf and buff, because it's a give and take, right? It's very hard to land on a balanced game when you can only go up, right? If I told you need to hit a certain range on something, right, but you can only go up, you can't go back down. Well, you ever see that? You ever play The Price is Right? You know how they have to, like, guess the number without going over, and so people normally they guess lower, right, because they know if they go over they lose, right? That's like kind of what's going on. If you make every character to that level, right, it just decreases the quality of life. Because think about it, right? If you hate what lab coat is doing to you, if you actually have a problem with what lab coat infusions are doing to you, right, why would you want every character to have that, right? You're just going to experience those frustrations more often, right? If you have a problem with what a character is doing in a game, you shouldn't want anyone to have it. You shouldn't, on principle, because that is what made you feel bad. So why would you want to feel bad more? Right? It's that's my sentiment on that. You're free to disagree, but that's okay. With rollback, maybe. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. But that's not the world we live in. That's not the world we live in, Matik. This patch gets saved because it's the placeholder patch, ungod. I mean, like, that's their plan, right? Their plan is to make you, like, forgive them for this patch because there's another patch coming. But like I said, where's the feedback coming from, right? Who's still playing the game and grinding the game that they could get valuable feedback from? That amount of people has been severely reduced, and so I think they're gonna have a hard time, honestly. We'll have to see how it pans out, of course, but it'd be like that. And then he says, no, because I want the game to be like it was in 3.5. This, unfortunately, it will just never happen. It'll never be like that. But he says the best we're gonna get anytime soon. This is actually this is so funny because, like, Vermeer accepting that the game might actually get worse with the next patch. That's a possibility, and it always is a possibility, and especially with Bandai. So don't cut them any slack, guys. Don't cut them any slack. You need to press them. You have to. You have to press them. You have to press them. There's no choice. If you want the game to get better, you have to press them. Has DBFC ever had a patch that could have been the last? Some people hated something huge about every major patch. Yeah, absolutely. What are you talking about? Ever had a patch that could have been the last? Yes. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Just look at the size of the player bases and the tournaments and all that, man. You could just look at metrics for that if you really wanted to. Like, yes, people always complain about every patch, but them playing tells the tale, right? If people are on the game and they're grinding and they're entering every tournament, even though they might say like, "Oh my God, like I hate the way it is," their play is not really telling that, right? Their actions speak for themselves. If you're traveling for the game to every tournament, and you're entering every tournament, and you care about losing, and you're grinding, and you're streaming it 10 hours a day, do you really hate the game? No, absolutely not. You might be frustrated with some things because that's just the way competing works, but you still are playing, right? And that's what matters. That's what matters at the end of the day. Okay, Surreal says, you never had an absolute decision on it because you had asked this prior and you're more of a see in how it plays out. But in hindsight, no one's playing this game, which is hilarious. This isn't 100% true, but I do think it is noticeable how many people are exploring other options, especially during this time. Because like I said, this patch is a patch that like it feels like it doesn't matter to anyone, right? Because if I'm a competitor, I'm just waiting for the next patch because I know it's going to change. What's the point of learning all this shit if they're just going to change everything a few months or however? I don't know how long it's going to take them. I don't know how long it's going to take them, but like, why would I spend a bunch of time on this when I know it's going to change like that, right? Especially when it's such a short amount of time. It's supposed to be perceived as a short amount of time. Well, it's different in season 2 for GT, because you remember they dropped GT and then they said no more patches, right? But that was months. That was like I think it was like 9 months. I think they dropped GT in May, and I don't think the game changed until like February or March. And so like it was a long time. It was a long time for people to like actually grind and like figure things out. And there was a lot of really, really sick tech development that happened during that time. Actually, that was like the golden era of tech in this game, is when we knew the game wasn't going to change for that long. And that shit was crazy. We were really cooking. We were really cooking out here. During that time, I do miss that time. That is the time I look upon with that, like, people ask me like what season did I like the best. There's a few different reasons why I like season 2 the best, but I think that's definitely one of them, is because everyone was tech developing and it was really fun. We were just finding grimy shit. And it felt like everyone was playing, right? And that's a feeling that I don't think I'll ever experience again with the game. And so, it just be like that. All right, Muffin. He says, patches will forever and always be more valuable to me in this game. I'd rather have guaranteed 10 patches throughout the next 7 to 10 years than rollback, since it's something you really wouldn't affect me at all, since you don't play online unless you're really bored, because you're in NYC. This is just another really selfish take, I think. I get it. You live in New York, you have people to play with, but I mean, I would really, really implore you to think about the other people. There's so many people out there that would love to play the game. They don't live in New York, man. And like, it's not even, it's so crazy because like in my mind, right, it makes sense that he said something like this because it's a very, very tunnel visioned and very segmented take. But would you not want more potential practice partners and whatnot? Like, yeah, playing in New York is great and all, but like, wouldn't you love to practice against the European players and the West Coasters and stuff like that? Like, I just don't. I feel like, wouldn't you want that? Like, I feel like that is nothing but a straight positive for you. So I don't know why you would be like, yeah, I don't really give a fuck because I'm in New York. I mean, this is the type of shit, honestly, like I said, Muffin's free to have this take. I'm not mad at him, but honestly, this is a really, really destructive take. Like, really, really destructive. This is not the way that people should be thinking if they want the game to survive. It just isn't. Like, this is not healthy. This is this is not healthy. This is especially when people have been so vocal about the reason that I don't want to play the game right now is because the netcode sucks. People have been vocal about that for 5 years, right? And And so like, I don't know why you would feel that way, but you know, I feel like it's a take that could only happen. Like, you know, is it crazy? Is it crazy that I feel like this take could only come from someone in New York? I don't know why I feel that way, but I feel like it's only New York that someone would even think this way. I can't think of any other place that it would be like that. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation. But you know, can't change people. Okay, Lucar says, I still believe receiving a patch was healthier than waiting for it to come out with rollback. Not your favorite patch by far. You're glad to see an update to the game. It encourages new interactions to the game. Maybe you might feel different if there was dev communication. Okay, so this is interesting, honestly, and I'm really glad that Lucar said this, because like I wouldn't expect this take from someone in his position, right? And so that's why I think this take is super valuable, because Lucar is another player that really hates the direction of the game. If you ever talk to Lucar about the game in person, he absolutely despises the design philosophy behind, you know, the neutral skips and the full screen shit and all that. Like, he hates that. He absolutely despises it. But Lucar loves Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I think that there's no doubt in my mind, like, he loves this game. He loves it enough that even though he hates it, he still goes to everything. He still goes to everything, right? He's at every tournament. Or every tournament he can afford to go to. He's a combo breaker, right? He's going to CEO this weekend. I mean, at least that's local, but yeah. So like, it's interesting. He says, not his favorite patch by far. You're glad to see an update to the game. This is a fine take. Like, wanting the game to be updated, and the reason that it's important is not because of the changes themselves, but the idea that, you know, the idea behind like being glad that there's an update to the game is the idea that the dev still cares about it. And right. And so like, that's the issue, right? That's the issue with Bandai in particular, is that like, by updating the game, you're sending signals that we care about the game. We want to keep changing it, but the quality of those changes that you're making kind of express something different. And so like, that's what I mean. Like, people were kind of giving mixed signals. Encourages new interactions out of the game. I talked about this earlier with content. Absolutely does, right? Anytime there's a new patch, you get a ton of content. You know, a bunch of people will hop on the game, stream it, talk about the changes, all that stuff. That absolutely is a thing. That's a good take. I don't know about this though. I don't know if it's actually healthier than waiting for it to come out with rollback. I mean, like, that wasn't really the question, right? The problem is, like, a lot of people have taken the question that I asked and they turned it into, you know, would I prefer this timeline, or would I prefer to have waited? Would I prefer to waited, you know, a patch to come out with rollback? That wasn't the option though, right? The option was, if you had to pick one to come out at the time that it did, so meaning May 22nd, would you have wanted rollback or would you have wanted the patch, right? And so like, I think these things are night and day difference. Like, honestly, don't know if I would agree. I don't think it's healthier personally. I really don't. And the reason that I think that it's not healthy is because what would have been much healthier is for them to drop like, let's say they drop rollback, right? Rollback brings a lot of new players to the game. A lot of people get on the game and they actually play it. Even though, yeah, it's lab coat fusions. Yeah, sure, but they don't fucking care. A lot of people that can't play the game online, they don't care. They actually like the game and they want to play it, but they can't, right? They're just hindered from doing that. You get a bunch of those people onto the game and then you change the game, right? Because now you have a bigger player base because more people can actually play. And then the patch drops, and then you can have conversations about whether you like the patch or not the patch, but your player base is there. You want to grow the player base first and then make changes. If you make changes first, you turn people off, right? All you've done by dropping the patch first is you've made people quit the game or lose interest in the game, and those people are likely not going to come back with or without rollback. If it's if they're concerned with game balance and how the game actually plays, I mean, like, they might not come back when you lose them, because most of those people are competitive players, right? The people that are the most in danger of being lost, right, are the competitive players. The casuals will likely play no matter what, But competitive fighting game players, right? They're the people that you can actually lose by having bad dev communication, by dropping lackluster patches, by, you know, perpetuating this relationship that is very toxic between Bandai and community. And so if you lose them, if someone's like, this patch fucking sucks and there's no rollback, so I'm playing Street Fighter, they might never come back, right? And that's a problem. It's a big problem. But thank you, Lucar, for saying this. I think your take is like really solid, man. Honestly, I like where your head's at. Okay, this person says patch. A stale meta with rollback will just be people not enjoying the game in crystal clear 4K. Okay, can I address the elephant in the room with this? Let me read the whole thing first. A patch livens up the game, so when rollback happens, they have something exciting to play rather than something they already hated. Okay. Guys. I just want to address something. I don't know when this became a thing, but why is there an idea that everyone despises Dragon Ball Fighters altogether because of lab coat fusion meta? Why? Where did that? When did we start? when did we start like perpetuating this idea? I don't think this is true. Honestly, I don't think this is true. I think there are people that even during lab coat fusion meta were still enjoying themselves. Especially if you're extending the offer past the realm of competitive players, right? If you're looking at the very very secluded part of the community that plays in tournament, like, okay, maybe that is the case, right? But there's so much more. There's so many more people than that. There's more people than might be in your immediate field of vision. I just don't think this is true. Like I don't think that like the sentiment is that people just straight up hitting like nobody likes the game right now. Like that's just not, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. And I think a lot of people are assuming that because they themselves maybe don't like it. But I think it's foolish to assume that for so many people, especially in a game like this where, you know, like the IP is so strong that like a lot of people are going to love the game like pretty much no matter what, right? I don't know. I just feel like it's a little interesting. Would they hate something less if they can actually use legitimate counterplay that delay base prevented them from doing? Yeah, I mean, that's a part that they don't understand as well, is that the game, like rollback is not an explicit balance change, but it absolutely changes the way the game is played, right? The game does change with better netcode, 100%. Absolutely, right? It just does. Not having to deal with delayed inputs to avoid that fucking EX Lariat from Gogeta 4, that makes a difference. That makes a difference. That can make the difference between you getting hit on your jump start up and you avoiding it and getting a whiff punish. That just, it does change the game. And so like, yeah, I think this is a pretty crazy assumption. I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad at any of these takes. I just find this really interesting that his idea is that the accepted sentiment is that everyone hated the game back then and they love it now, so I like the patch better. I just don't think that's the case. I don't think I can agree with that, to be honest. It'd be like that. Okay, Rodimus wrote a lot, and he was actually one of the people I wanted to address explicitly. I didn't reply to him in this thread. But yeah, also, I think it's really funny that he opened his statement like this. He said, this applies here to me as someone who plays online all the time as a given native, which is really funny because like being a net player is now a nationality, which is hilarious, and small online influencer, which I thought was also funny. Shout outs to Rodimus though. He's the homie. But let's talk about what he actually had to say. He wanted the patch first if getting rollback patch was not an option. Stop putting it like this was never an option, right? This was never going to happen. This was never going to happen because the only reason that this patch exists, and feel free to disagree with me, right? The only reason that this patch exists is a cover up for pushing back rollback. This patch does not exist without it, right? If the rollback beta was going to drop in spring like they said it would, this patch never happens. You're still playing Fusion's lab coat until the patch before Evo. I wholeheartedly believe that. 100%. Okay. Keep going though. A stale game is still stale at that point. Disagree. Totally disagree. There's different types of staleness. There's staleness in meta, and then there's staleness because your community has stagnated. If you do rollback, then your community is no longer stagnant. You have so many new players, right? You have more interest in the game from their communities as well. If there's people that if Sonic Fox comes back and starts playing the game full time again, and it's their main game, right? A lot of people pick up the game because of that. If Goichi go back, right, starts pick up the game, right? These people have they have fan bases. They have people that care about their opinions, right? And so if there are people that come from other communities and other games that never wanted to play it before because of the netcode, but now do want to play it, they bring their fan bases and they bring their area of influence with them. It makes the community much bigger, and that's just a good thing. It's really good. It's a really good thing, right? It's just a good thing to have more people playing the game. If you do it in the reverse, then you've already limited yourself so much that the influence can't be felt as widely. That's like what I'm trying to get at with this. But team variety change is vastly different. Upside to a patch for refreshing points. This will happen no matter what. I don't disagree. This will happen no matter what, though. Especially in the first month of a patch, you're going to feel like everything is so new and exciting. But like I said, if you played this patch for a year, guarantee you the same things will happen, right? The same characters, the same characters that you were gassing up about getting these brand new changes and, oh, this character is broken now, the same characters that people will complain that ruin the game a year down the line. And that's because, right, they're just trying to benefit off that honeymoon phase feeling. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's your favorite team. No, it's oh yeah. This part just feels like salt. Okay, I'm sorry, Rodimus. Like this is I don't know, man. This is better off not seeing lab coat fusions on every damn team just cause it's your favorite team. First of all, there are people that love those characters. Like, are we gonna act like people don't love Gogeta 4 and they don't love Vegito and they don't love Blue Gogeta? Is that what we're acting like? Are we legit gonna act like these aren't the most popular characters in the franchise? Because I feel like you'd have to completely ignore that to have this sentiment. Like, people do love these characters. They do. They love these characters. That's why they put them in the game as DLC, because they knew you would buy them. They straight up. They knew. They knew what it was, right? And so, yeah. And by the way, like, people loved them before they were good as well. Blue Gogeta, people still played Blue Gogeta before he was top tier. People played Vegito before he was top tier. Absolutely. I just disagree with this. It carries your weak ass. Listen, man, strong character. There's nothing wrong with picking strong characters in a fighting game. Straight up. There's nothing wrong with it. I will be the one to say it. There's nothing wrong. Literally nothing wrong with picking strong characters in a fighting game. I feel like I get he might be jaded, right? But there's nothing fundamentally wrong with picking a strong character in a fighting game for whatever reason, whether it's because they're strong or because you really just love the character. You can pick whatever the fuck you want. That's the freedom you get when you pay for a game, right? You get to choose your own path. That's the joy of versus games as well, right? Like, picking these teams, multiple characters that you really, really like for whatever reason. That's like one of the biggest draws of versus games. So I don't know. I just don't like that. Being sheep over making your own thing to reward pride like a lion. I feel like you're just really jaded, honestly, on this particular aspect, man. I can't say I really like that sentiment that much. All that would have happened is initially hollow boost to the number of LC Fusion teams. What? All that would have happened is initially hollow boost to the number of LC Fusion teams. I don't think I get what you're getting at here. Are you saying oh, he's saying Rollback would just create more LC Fusion teams? I actually disagree. I was like, am I the only one that thinks that Rollback would actually help team variety? Do you want to have this conversation? I actually think it would. I actually think it would. I think if Rollback is a thing, I think people pick some different stuff. It's not going to completely flip the meta on its head, but there are characters that are hindered by delay based, right? There are characters that are very difficult to play on delay based that you could get away with playing on Rollback. Yeah, Base Vegeta comes to mind, right? I think you see a lot more of him if you're on Rollback. As opposed to like it's hard. It's really hard to avoid all this shit in delay based. It's so hard. Like it's so difficult, right? I don't know. I feel like it would. I feel like it would help team variety, at least in a small way. It might, like I said, it might not like make a world of difference, but I do think you'd see some characters that you didn't see before on a better netcode. And so like I don't agree with this. That team destroyed online visually. You stop watching tourneys when it's the same characters in top 8. This is purely anecdotal. This is just straight up anecdotal. Now we could actually go and like pull the numbers and see how viewership is doing, but the issue is that there's a lot of things that factor into viewership. So it's like kind of hard to use that as a one-to-one. But like if you stop watching tournaments because the same characters in top 8, doesn't mean everyone is, right? People are still watching the game, they're still playing the game. It actually does pretty well at big tournaments. Like at majors, like viewership is still pretty good, even on Fusion Labco patch. So like don't know about that one, but you're free to have that take. That's like fine. A person gets tired even if learning the crappy meta just for it to not matter because LC solves everything. These are two different things. You're saying two different things here, but it's fine. It's fine. She's not as initially viable, nor is Fusion's, while still keeping all their disruptive tools, which is a part of the point at this time. You wouldn't say this is the issue. This is the biggest issue. You wouldn't say the meter nerf was lazy. It's simple to where it focused those characters, say meter positive a lot to sustain the reward solo. This, I cannot, like, there's one other person that had this take. And so actually, I think I'm going to wait to go hard on this until I go to theirs. But I have such an issue. I have such an issue with this. I have such an issue with this. But I'll address that in a bit. Even now, sometime later, you stand by this. You've had as much fun with DBFC the past month ever since Season 3 start, even if the patch isn't exactly all I was looking for. You know, the funny thing about everyone that has said they've been having more fun this patch than they ever had previously, they all do it with this caveat. They all say, even if the patch isn't exactly all what I was looking for. They all, like Long John Cena did that. Rodimus is now doing it, right? This is a reoccurring theme. I feel like it's copium, right? I feel like this is acknowledgement that like some of the reason that you enjoy it now is just because it's new for the sake of being new, not because of the quality of what actually changed in the patch. And that's okay. That's totally okay. But I think you have to recognize that. I think a lot of you feel that way. A lot of you feel like, you know, I was playing the same thing for a while. I'm just glad to have something new. That's totally fine. But don't turn around and act like it's good. Like the changes are good, right? You like it for it being new, not because the changes that were made. And that's fine. When we come to that understanding, then we can have much more in-depth conversations about what direction should the game go from here. Because that's what matters, right? That's what really matters. But yeah, your base Q teams are all reworked buffs, right? So this is like my characters that I like are better, so I like it. You know, we saw that with the KJ take as well. Do agree rollback is still needed. And then he actually goes in about like the differences in platforms, which is interesting. Actually, I do think he's the first one to like talk about the platform difference. I do think perspectives change from platform to platform for sure. If you played nothing but PS4 this whole time, your take's probably going to be different from someone that plays PC the entire time. Recognizing those differences is totally okay, but you do need to be willing to accept the other side, no matter which side you come from. It matters. It matters. And then he says, this is my opinion as a known online native, biased POV aside. I actually disagree. I think this is 100% biased, and that's fine. That is totally fine, because I asked you your opinion. This whole thread is your bias, right? It's bias against the way the meta was. It's bias for your own characters being buffed, right? It's all that. That is bias in and of itself. It might not feel that way, and I appreciate the attempt to take a step back and try to take an objective look at things, but you have to understand that a lot of things you said in this thread were just anecdotal or bias laden, which is fine. It's fine. I wanted your opinion in the first place, and I'm not mad at it, but I don't think you removed the bias as much as Touch did. And I'll address your lazy the lazy meter thing. Oh guys, I have such a funny take for you guys to watch. Like we'll see. We'll get there. You'll know when you see it. Okay, so this is from Kana. I personally like the patch because it was change. Change for the sake of change. This is exactly what this first statement says to me. I personally like the patch because it was change. That is fine, but you have to recognize it. I commend Kana for actually just being willing to say it. I liked the patch because it was a change. That's fine. Unfortunately, it wasn't the change you wanted, right? Always, like I said, that it always comes with these caveats. I'm glad the game changed. It wasn't what I wanted, but I'm glad the game changed. In fact, the completely opposite direction. Wow. Holy shit. Okay. Yeah, he even went a little harder than I thought he would there. Holy. Okay. Nonetheless, you're still happy for some of the meter nerf changes. You really wish they would remove this full screen nonsense. This will never happen, unfortunately, but you know, it is what it is, my friend. It's just how they want the game to be, so you have to hold it. Now, this one, okay. This didn't apply to me, but I'm personally happy that we got a patch first, because all that would have happened is there would be an overwhelming number of lab coat fusion teams. I don't know why people think I don't know why people think that in a competitive tournament environment, people are not going to disproportionately pick the strong shit. That will always happen no matter what the meta is. No matter what. There's never been a meta in Dragon Ball FighterZ history where people haven't mostly picked the really strong shit. Point me towards a meta where that happened. Where? When has that ever happened? When has that ever happened in any versus game? We could probably extend that to fighting games in general if we really wanted to. When has that ever happened? I feel like that's literally never, like never. It's never happened that way. People always pick the shit. People have always picked the shit that was regarded as strong. That's just the way it goes, right? Competitive games are like that. So like, yeah, I don't know. We just have good netcode. This is the dimensioning. This is like a statement that really diminishes the importance of good netcode. We just have good netcode. It's not just good netcode, bro. The netcode's been bad for 5 years, and it literally prevents people from playing the game. This is not a small thing that you just say lol to and move on. Like it's not like that, bro. Like it's like. It's not. This is so much more important than you're making it. Like I don't know. That team was killing the game for you. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's you though. It's not everyone. You stop watching tournaments. Like I said, that's just you. That's not everyone. The only tournaments you watched anymore was bums, and that's still the same. Wait, whoa. Wait a minute. Wait, whoa. Okay, I stopped watching tournaments. Okay, that team was killing the game for me. The only tournaments I watched anymore was bums, and that was still the same? What? I don't really understand this one. I was like, I don't really get this one. Because you still watched, right? You didn't stop watching. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Okay. This patch actually did something. That team is less viable, which is what you wanted. Okay. So selfish, right? While making other characters more viable. SSJ Vegeta after 5 years is not only viable, but also genuinely strong. Selfish, right? Characters that you like are better, so you think it's good. Right? You don't think that. So here's the other one. I don't think the meter nerf was lazy. It's simplistic and it works. That's like saying a seatbelt in a car was a lazy change. Listen, man, in all of my years having discourse with this game, I don't think I've ever seen a more inappropriate analogy. I don't understand why you thought that this was. I legit, like, if you could explain more what you mean by this, I would love to like get clarification. But like, that's like saying a seatbelt in a car was a lazy change. That doesn't make sense, brother. The goal of a seatbelt in a car is to provide safety to the person that drives. A goal of a balance change in a video game or changing a character is not only to balance the character, but to also make it feel fun and rewarding for the people that play it, right? It does not accomplish those two goals. The meter nerf does not do that. The people that love lab coat fusions just feel like they're being penalized for liking those characters. They didn't get anything new and exciting to go along with these things. It's just, oh, you just build less meter. That's the most uninspired and lazy change of all, right? It's just how it goes. Like that, like it's literally, like I said, if they actually took the time to code it so that the combos built less meter, but the other things didn't, then I would be like, okay, maybe they actually thought about this a little bit. But it's not just combos that build less meter. It's literally, you get less meter for moving forward. How does that make sense? Two characters move the same amount of distance on the screen, and these characters build 50% meter compared to others. That does not make any sense. That is not fun or rewarding or feel good to anyone. I don't understand how you could think that that's not lazy. You're more concerned with the outcome. The outcome was one that you liked. You liked that the characters are worse, and so you think any means to that end is good, and that's just not the case. If I took the worst character in the game, here's a counter example, right? If I took the worst character in the game and I made it so anytime they pressed 5L and it made contact with you, they built 7 meters. That character would be top tier. That character would be top tier, right? They would be better. But is that balance change fun or rewarding, or does it make any sense? No, it does not. And so that's what I mean by the outcome might accomplish what you want. You might want that worst character to be better, but how you get there actually matters a lot. Like, it matters so much more than you think it does. It's not a matter of this character is good, this character is bad. It's you need to make it make sense. It has to make sense. Right? And so I implore you to think more about what goes into balancing a video game. And I don't know, this seatbelt in a car analogy, I just think, I just can't even imagine how you could think they're even remotely the same thing. I don't know. That's crazy. They made assist more like Vegito A to have way more hit stun, so his isn't as overtuned. Wait, what? What? Wait. Wait, what? It's the same assist. I mean, I think it's a little bit more punishable. It's a little bit more happy birthday, but it's still functionally the same assist. And again, this goes back to what I was saying, guys. If you feel bad, if you think Vegito A, like, how many of you in chat, let's be a little interactive. How many of you in chat thought Vegito A was legit unfun to play against? Like, you thought, like, this shit is complete nonsense. Like, I hate playing against this shit. How many of you felt that way? Do you think they made the meter change a little too extreme? I think the meter change in general is just not a good change. They should have gone a different route for balancing if they're going to balance the characters. Don't play enough to say. Okay. Here's where I'm going with this, right? If you're someone that says Vegito A is broken, Vegito A is overtuned, it's picked on every team, I hate playing against it, why would you want more assists like that, right? Why would you think that that's a good change? Right? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, there's still no assist doing what Vegito A does. Like, legit. And unless I missed something in the patch, I don't think so. There's nothing that does what Vegito A does. Even still. Even like, GTA is better, but Vegito A is Vegito A, bro. Like, that shit is nonsense. That is a And so, like, why would you want to fight against more of that? That doesn't make sense. If you have an issue with the assist itself, right, then you shouldn't want more characters to have it, because it just would be less fun for you to play because more characters have assists like that, right? What you actually have a problem with is Vegito. You're mad that it's Vegito in particular. So you're okay with getting, so if I took Vegito A off of Vegito and I put it on a worse character, if I put it on cooler, you'd be like, oh no, this is fine because Vegito A isn't as overtuned. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. Right? Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. It does. If you hate playing against it, you should want less characters to have it, not more. Right? I don't know. I can't get to a common ground with you there. You like the beam change because it made zoning more viable. The beam change is not man. How do I even want to address this? This is not as much a zoning buff as you think it is. Right? In theory, right? Throwing a beam is a zoning thing. Like you're trying to put a projectile out and have some full screen presence, right? That in theory. But in reality, the beam change lets you skip neutral more. Right? You can whiff a beam, meaning that you failed in the zoning attempt, and then super dash to cover yourself. They gave that to more characters. That's not as that's like that's not as much a zoning change. That's not as much as like a zoning buff as you think it is, I don't think. I think it actually makes the game more scrambly. Which is not what you want to do when you zone. Like, yeah. People should suffer the consequences of their actions when they make a choice like throwing a beam or throwing a fireball, right? Throwing a fireball in Street Fighter is the same way. If Ryu could cancel his fireball into DP, right? If he didn't have to recover from fireball, he could just DP while the recovery of his fireball was going off. You'd be like, this is fucking stupid, right? This is fucking stupid. It's same type of deal, bro. Like, it's why are people canceling beams into a tracking full screen system mechanic that goes through shit? Like, that doesn't make sense. But yeah. Most of all, you're tired of people complaining about full screen moves more than anything. That's been the game's design philosophy for 2 years. It's clear that they want the game to be like, to you, it just feels like DB in the anime. It's never reverting. Let it go. This is actually, out of everything you said, right? I had a problem with the lazy meter nerf, all that, right? With that statement, this is the biggest, this is actually the statement I have the biggest issue with. Because you're not practicing what you preach here, right? You're saying you're tired of people complaining about full screen moves. Why? If people feel like it's dumb or they feel like it's not good for the game, they should be vocal about it, right? They're more than welcome to be vocal about it. That's been the game's design philosophy for 2 years. Does that mean just because someone makes horrible decisions for X amount of time does not mean you should not push for better conditions, right? If you're in a dead-end job and your boss fucking hounds you and you feel shitty in your work environment, but you can't leave because obviously if you lose your job, you're not going to have income, right? Does that mean you should stop trying to make your workplace a better place? No, you absolutely should still push for change. Just because people accept what is going on does not mean they're okay with it. It doesn't mean that like they're happy about it, right? You should want to be happy about playing the video game. Your sentiment is, you know, it's not what you like, but it's what I like, so you should shut up, and the game is for me and not you. That's so selfish, right? It's so selfish. There's so many reasons that people want to play this game. You should want more people to want to play it, for whatever reason that is, right? You cannot just tell people, let it go, because you should have let it go, right? Right? The devs made lab coat fusions. They made pre-patch lab coat. They made the fusions the way they are. They made the meta. They're the people that make the balance decisions. So why didn't you let go lab coat fusions? If you're telling people to let it go, why didn't you let it go? Because you certainly didn't. So I don't think you're practicing what you preach here. I think this is an unfair sentiment. I don't like this. Yeah, I think it's really unhealthy. Like, this is very toxic take. I don't very toxic. If people accepted what was going on, would have never ended. Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm not trying to get that crazy about it, but yeah, I mean, it's a yeah. In principle, there's definitely some differences between the two. I'm not gonna try to say that slavery is anywhere close to balance in a video game, but on principle, sure. Okay, what else we got? I wanted the patch first because I didn't play online that much to begin with. Okay, so it acknowledges that it comes from kind of a selfish place, which is, you know, I get it. The patch buffed all 3 characters on your main team, and we're seeing more variety overall, so we're happy. I mean, but you don't know. But you don't know that this will actually be the case, though, right? You don't know that there's actually more variety. I mean, there hasn't been like many tournaments played on this patch as it is, right? Like we haven't even, there hasn't even been like a really big tournament on this patch yet. So like I don't, and what's more, like, I mean, I don't know if the patch is supposed to be before Evo or whatever, but I mean the game's just gonna change again. So what happens? What happens if what happens if Evo comes around and the second patch happens and it's just lab coat fusions again? Then what? CEOs, it starts tomorrow. Imagine. But like, you know, he's saying my characters got better, so I like it. That's like essentially what he's saying here. So, but yeah, okay, next. It's only been a month. Yeah, exactly. It's still to me, it's still very much in honeymoon phase for the patch. There are a lot of people that are still trying to make opinions about it. There haven't been that many big tournaments on it. A lot of people don't even know what to think. And so like, I think it's too early to just straight up say it. Like there's always a lot of variety. Like the first few weeks into a patch, there's always variety because people are still trying to figure out what the broken shit is. That's the point. That's the variety that you see. You see people testing things so they can find out what the busted shit is so they can run that. And then eventually, right, after a certain amount of time passes, people just pick the stuff that's strong. That's just the way it goes. That's how it always has been. To this day, you still wanted rollback over the patch. The fusion meta was brain dead, but not being able to do what you wanted when you wanted made it much worse. All I'm saying is I'd rather lose due to your own fault and not because your 2H didn't come out. Reasonable. It's a reasonable take. I get it. I do think delay base makes the characters that were running last meta, or even to some extent still this meta, wait until you see that, it made it harder to fight them on delay base for sure. Like that's what I mean by the game does change with a new netcode, even if there isn't explicit balance changes. Okay, definitely want to roll back first. Getting a patch made the game more egregious. Quite literally sucked everything you had left out of the game. You don't want to play it anymore, hardly even on a casual level. It feels really bad, especially when seeing the results you worked and strive for. It kills you because why would I put in more effort and get coaching in this game if they just want to kill you out of it? I'm good. Here's a question. Here's a question for all of you. For those of you who are not competitors, for those of you who are not tournament players, right? You just play Dragon Ball FighterZ because you like it. And you just watch shit, right? You might watch tournaments and stuff, but not competitors. How do you guys feel? I think like when I ask prompts like this, most people that answer will be at least adjacent to the competitive space in some way. I don't get a lot of responses from people that are like pure casuals, that don't care really much at all. That may not care much at all about, like, you know, competitive metagame and stuff like that. They're just playing it just to play. And so if you're watching this YouTube video and that applies to you, or you're in my chat, feel free to let me know, because I just don't get as much. I don't get as much of that. So you're a casual, you play SF6 now, they killed your favorite character. Interesting. Okay. All right. LS Vision Gaming says, bro, that Vegito meter nerf is not the right way. I actually think it's the worst change in Dragon Ball FighterZ history. That might be a hot take. I actually think the meter nerf is the worst change in the game's history. It just demonstrates like a lack of care. They just don't give a fuck about they don't give a shit. It'd be like that. Love the patch. We need rollback ASAP. I would have loved to hear more from Lobo. For what it's worth. Okay. Small tangent. Okay, Lobo is a copium lord, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't think Lobo is a copium lord, and you know how I know he's a copium lord? Because this guy used to follow me for my Android 21 shit. For those of you who don't know, it was Android 21 tech lord. for like the first 3 years of this game. Put out a lot of tech, developed the character a lot, right? This guy followed me and he liked everything. Like he was on every post there, frame one, like very happy about it. He was very torn up when the character got nerfed. Like very, very torn up. Like I've seen him in Twitch chats. It's pretty ugly. it's pretty ugly. So I don't know if he's since moved on to other characters, but I hope you find happiness, Lobo, bro. I really hope you do. I really hope you do, bro. I know how you felt, man. It'd be like that. But you were wildin'. When Majin got double tapped, I can understand you being upset, but like she was definitely still good after level 3 nerf. Like she's definitely still a good character. Not like broken number 1 in the game, but like definitely was still good. It's like that definitely still a good character, bro, 100%. But you know, I was cool with it until I played SF6, and now yeah, rollback should have been first. Wow. That's damn, bro. Like I don't even know what to say to that. That's fucked up, bro. That's fucked up. He tasted the other side. He doesn't want to go back, bro. He doesn't want to go back, bro. Oh my god. Wait, hold on. We got some people typing in chat. Let me see. You found that even with the new patch, your want to watch the game has dwindled a fuck ton. Okay. You would rather watch other games that interest you, like Eunice, P4. Okay. With more patches in the game direction, you got bored at looking at the game as a whole. Okay. I mean, that's fine. You play a fuck 10, but you don't compete. The competitive scene got you into the game. And for a while, you wanted a patch because of your favorite character is dog ass. But you realized after playing SF6 that being able to simply play the game when you want makes a world of difference. As someone from Texas as well, can't travel like that. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah. No, absolutely. This is like an unfortunate reality of things, is that like there are a lot of people like this. There are a lot of people like this. That feel this way, and like it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It'd be like that though. Like the longer they wait, the more you risk more cases like this, right? It's just how it goes. Can't keep fucking up with so much competition, man. It's just how it goes. You always want to roll back. Patch don't mean nothing if you can't play the game properly. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Snowy. Oh, Solo J. Okay. You don't qualify as one of them, but you wish the patch was more complete and fleshed out. This was once again Bandai taking a leap and adding a change they saw fit while taking few complaints into consideration. You don't think it's ass, but you're ready for the next patch. At this point, at what point do you stop believing, right? At what point do you look at the trend and the way things are going, and you no longer look forward to things like the next patch? Because like, who knows what the fuck they're gonna do, right? They say they're taking community feedback. Who's the community? Who are they taking it from? You? Me? I don't know. Certainly not me. They don't listen to me. They might listen to y'all. They might listen to y'all, but not me. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. Honestly, knowing that it's already coming is taking away the feeling of wanting to play. Kind of like a game's gonna change anyways. Yeah. So I was talking about that, right? By saying you're gonna do 2 patches within such short time of each other, there's a lot of people that don't feel the need to grind this patch because they know the game's gonna change soon anyway. Like that is something that has been like a reoccurring thing for a lot of this game's lifetime. Like there was a lot of people like that when Rollback was announced too, right? when Rollback was announced, there's a lot of people that stopped caring because they're like, oh, I'm not going to take this shit seriously until Rollback. Now we're almost a year later and it's still not in the game. This is a problem. Right? It's a problem. Rollback would definitely help you enjoy playing with people online. Well yeah, I mean, I would hope so. Okay, next. I'll take a patch when I can get them. They're refreshing. I know eventually DBFZ will be in its final state, and there's no way it's going to be perfect. There will always be top tiers. You like some of the changes they made at least. Okay. You also don't play DBFZ super often anymore. If there was no patch, it wouldn't have been the end of the world for you. And so I actually asked them a little bit more on this. Is not playing it more often or gameplay related or because of IRL stuff? Because like I think that's important. Like sometimes life just changes and you just don't play a game as much, even though you want to. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure it wasn't for one of those reasons instead. And then he said the main reason he doesn't play as much anymore is because he plays casually. So the motivating factor is usually if you get a new idea you haven't thought of before. It's hard to keep coming back if you're not trying to be competitive. And so this is actually like, this is pretty cool. This is a pretty cool sentiment from Super Perfect. He's kind of already like moved into the casual realm. He's not really like competing anymore. And so like, you know, the patch is really, really good for someone like him because he likes discovery. He likes like discovering new things whenever changes drop and stuff like that. So makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense, honestly. In the best state it's ever been, according to the devs before the patch even dropped. I mean, I'd sacrifice. Not the sacrificial sack, bro. No, bro. Not like this. Not like this, bro. You'd rather still have the patch first since it changes team variety. So, like, yeah, people are really, really tunnel visioned on this. People are so incredibly tunnel visioned on this. And it's not even proven yet, right? We all know who are the winner meta of this patch, but at least the team variety is different. Yeah, so it's like, once again, it's like change for the sake of change. I just really don't like, I don't like change for the sake of change. I don't know about you guys, but I just don't, I'm not a fan of like being like, oh, I just like it just because it's different, right? I only like something if it's better. Is it? To me personally, it's like, I am only happy, I'm only satisfied if I feel like it's better than what I was playing before. Change for the sake of change, I think it's just like, I don't know, I'm just not interested in it. But I know a lot of people are, so not an invalid take. I just like, yeah, I don't know. Just it seems like a lot of people are real jaded by top tiers, man. Just it seems that way. Patch is better. Rollback wouldn't have changed anything. Okay. I mean, this is not true, but I'd rather take the delay L for now, but not see a lot of lab coat infusions on every team. Yeah, another person just jaded by meta. I don't know. That's the end of the takes, guys. Like this was a prompt that I didn't make. I didn't make this like frivolously. Like I really sat and thought about what was the question I needed to ask to really get into people's headspaces, and I think I did accomplish that. Like I do think I got there with a lot of people. It just like, I just feel like a lot of people are far too concerned with themselves, if that makes sense. They're more concerned with themselves than like the good of the game or the good of the community. And I wish that would change, because like I said, if you want a game like this to keep going for years and years and years, like the community is what holds it up. It's no longer the dev, it's no longer DLC, it's no longer that stuff holding the game up. That shit flew while it was, you know, while Dragon Ball was the biggest game and DLC was still getting released and like major like overhaul patches were happening, right? It could survive on those merits, but as time goes on, that support is going to be diminished. And the only thing that's going to hold the game up are you guys, right? The people, the community. And so like, you should be thinking about what is best for that greater community, especially if you want to continue playing this down the line, right? If you don't care and you're just gonna move on to the next game, then that's like fine, right? But like, is this where you want it to end? Like, is there is that, like I said, like I see the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. Like, I see the numbers in the tournaments that I run, and I'm just like, this is so sad. It shouldn't have been this way. I just can't help but feel in the back of my mind that things should not have gone this way. There could have been a different timeline. You didn't even think you'd play SS6 like that since release. You haven't even thought about going back to DBFZ. You think a lot of that is because of how hard it is to play the game? Yeah, it happens. There's definitely an L for buff everyone arguments. Yeah, so like, guys, like, my goal of this talk was to really express to you guys why I think some of these takes are very good, and why I think some of them are really destructive. And like that's the whole point, right? Because like, I have a lot of perspective, like a lot, right? A lot of perspective. And like, I think that it's in trouble. Like, I don't know what else to say it. Like, I think it's in trouble. Not in trouble of like, oh my God, like nobody's ever going to play the game. Like, I don't think that'll ever happen. It's a Dragon Ball game. There'll always be people that are playing it, but like, I feel like the people that are staying on the game and actually want to grind and get better in the game competitively are like running out of options. They're losing practice partners. They're losing community members. They're losing outlets. They're losing tournament series, right? Straight up. They're losing people. People don't want to run as many tournaments on the game anymore. They're not getting as much stage time. They're not getting as much stream time. Like that, this shit, I hope this shit matters to you guys. I really hope it does. Maybe you just don't give a fuck. But I gotta imagine that there's people out there that do care, and they care a lot. You feel like what can save this game, what you personally want, is to have consequences for your actions and not reward bad play. I mean, like, we're way past that though. I would agree with you, but that's not what they want. Very clearly, right? That's not what they're gonna do. They're just not. It just, they have an idea for how they want the game to be. And for what it's worth, right? Like I said before, it's not like everyone hates the game. There are definitely people that like the game the way it is now. There are people that liked the way the game was last patch, right? It's not binary. It's not like everyone hates it or everyone loves it. But I am speaking through the lens of, you know, caring about the competitive community. Like that's what matters to me. The casuals matter, but like that's not my space, right? They have their champions. I'm not one of them. I'm just not one of them. I'm not their spokesperson. I just have to try to push for changes that I think will make the conditions better for you guys. Because I built my fucking community on this, right? I did. Not only did I build my community on this, I fucking partially carried this game. And I will not hear any arguments on this fact, bro. If you know what I did for this game, you know exactly what I mean. I don't even have to explain. You don't have to explain. I don't want to see it go down like this. I had to stop running Wumpa Warriors for Dragon Ball because people just didn't sign up and they don't want to play anymore. You think I wanted to do that? No, absolutely not. No. That just doesn't make sense. I want to continue to nurture the competitive scene for this game, but if there's nobody left, what am I supposed to do? If you keep making shitty decisions that make it so people don't want to play the game in tournaments anymore, what am I supposed to do? Right? It's like, I just don't, my hands are tied. Like I'm trying. It's like, I'm trying my hardest out here. Counterpoint to rollback doesn't change anything. Yeah. People don't understand what this game went through. If they're saying the netcode doesn't matter a lot, They just don't really understand the scope of like this game almost dying in 2020. And if we didn't adjust the cloud parsec, we'd be in a much different situation than we are now. That's a reality that a lot of people did not see, because, you know, there's a lot of people that when they watch a cloud parsec stream, they don't even know what it is, right? They just see the game on worse settings and they ask, why does the game look so bad? And then you have to go through the process of explaining to them what is going on. And I did that a lot, bro. I had a command for it. I had a command for it because like I asked it so much. Why does the game look so bad? Why does the game look so bad? Well, it's because running cloud parsec servers, this and that, right? I spent $7,000 on cloud servers for this game. $7,000. That is money I will never get back. Right? I will never, ever get that money back. I will never get that time back. Do I regret what I did? No, I don't. I don't. But to see all that effort be stifled because this company just can't get a clue, right? They just can't get a clue, and it pisses me off. It's like they just don't get it, bro. They don't get it. UMVC3 had a Twitch Rivals tournament and it's back at Evo. Yeah. That's community carries. Community carries. Marvel running tournaments on Parsec saved the game. People were like, oh, I can play the game in better conditions. Bet. I'm there. They sign up for tournaments. Their game's at Evo. And they're not just at Evo. I think they're like the 4th highest entrant game at Evo. It's not just, oh, they're there for the ride. It's there. Like, it's a real thing. But yeah, they're working on a fan-made mod for Rollback with their yeah, I saw that. I think that'll take some time though, to be honest. I think the Marvel Rollback will take time, but like the heavy lifting of the people that kept championing Marvel, Tong is like the single most important person in that scene, easily. The work that he did will never be it'll never be stifled, because like Marvel's not a game that's patched, right? So the work that he did and the people that he got into the game and the community that he created, right? All it does is snowball. More and more people want to play and they're excited by it, and they're gonna see it at Evo and they're gonna be like, shit, I want to play Marvel. And they can just do that, right? Can't do that with Dragon Ball. You can't because you don't know what the fuck Bandai's gonna do, and the netcode is dog shit. This game should still be one of the biggest fighting games out right now. It should be. It has everything going for it, right? It has things that other fighting games could not even dream of having behind it, right? There's some fantastic fighting games out there. There's never been a bigger fighting game IP pairing since Marvel. Ever. There just hasn't been, right? Dragon Ball had that. An IP that a lot of people like. It's fast. It's exciting to people. It looks beautiful aesthetically, right? And the one thing that stops it from reaching the place that it needs to go is the fucking devs, bro. That's it. Like, can't even hit 200 entrants at a combo breaker, bro. Like, we should still be seeing 400, 500. Like, it could have been, could have been one of the biggest games still. I believe that. It wouldn't have chucked like I mean, the big three are gonna outpace it, like, pretty much no matter what, because it's just like that. Like Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, it won't be bigger than those new games when they come out, but like, I think it would be right after. Probably. I mean, it's just that it's positioned that well, right? But how do we go? Where do we go from here? I don't know what to do. I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for you. I feel like I've done just about everything I could possibly do. I don't know what to do from here. I'm trying to figure out a way to make this go the right way, and it sucks to feel powerless. It sucks to be at the mercy of Bandai. It sucks. It fucking sucks. I don't know what to do. It's just Bandai. They always make games where they miss one puzzle piece to make a massive. It's because, well, I mean, Bandai, you know, works on a lot of different things at once, and I don't think they're that concerned with keeping people on Dragon Ball FighterZ, honestly. I think they're more concerned with their next Dragon Ball game that's going to come out. Like, BT4 is going to do really well, and I'm sure Xenoverse 3 is going to do really well, too. Now, I don't have any interest in those games at all. I don't have any interest in those games at all, personally, but I'm sure a lot of you do. But that's their business model now. That's why they're still doing changes in the game as it is. They're trying to keep some people on it to tide you over, to hope that you buy BT4, and they hope that you buy Xenoverse 3. 100%. Like, there's no doubt on my mind. They're just trying to string you guys along, keep you on the roller coaster. Don't go to Street Fighter. They're icky. We have Goku. Yeah, they have Rollback, but like, we have Vegeta, bro. Like, why would you go over there? Oh, look. You can 2-3 success 8 times in a combo. Isn't that cool? Okay. It takes too long for them to change things, and it's unfortunate. They make good decisions at times when it's games like SF6 come out. Wait, who? What are we talking about? The kind of community that drives DBFZ had in season 1 and season 2 will never return. Yeah, it's missed its prime. I mean, and that's not even like opinion, right? It's clearly past its prime. It just is. But it could still be like big though. Like like I said, it has so many things going for it. But they keep fucking up. How deep in the conversation are you? I've actually covered all the threads on the initial, but we're just having an open discussion now. So feel free, like, if you guys are out there and you want to contribute something to the conversation, by all means do. And you new people, please make sure you hit the follow button. This is going to be uploaded on my YouTube as well, so feel free. The thing about BT4 is the expectations are set so high because of how the previous installments were. You know, the thing about BT4 is that it actually doesn't matter how good the game is. You know, that, funnily enough, I think what you're saying doesn't actually matter that much. I think they have enough momentum off of nostalgia that it actually doesn't matter how good the game is. It's going to perform really well no matter what, to be honest. I think that's the trajectory it goes. Because it's not, BT4 has never been like a truly competitive game. It's an arena fighter. And a lot of characters like play very similarly. People just like the fact that they can pick literally anything that they want. If you like a character that appeared in one random movie special 20 years ago for 2 minutes, you could probably pick them in Tenkaichi games because they just put everyone in the game. They put everyone in the game, and like, that's a draw, right? Big roster, so people feel like they can pick whatever they want. And yeah, nostalgia is going to drive a lot for that game, for sure. You think DBFZ needs a connections treatment? What would that look like? I don't know what you mean by that. Can you explain more what you mean by that? I'm not getting the reference 100%, to be honest. You hope the next anime game they put out isn't like this or doesn't turn out like this? I mean, like, it's Bandai, so I'm sorry, I don't. Low-key, you don't think the latest patch killed the competitive scene because it's been dead to you since post-Evo. Once that rollback hype died down, we saw a lot of tournament numbers for DBFZ go down. Combo Breaker being the big one because I don't think it hit 2 entrants. Yeah, we covered that, actually. Yeah. BT4 is going to be a literal party game, and it's going to be great for what it is. Yeah, I could agree with that. Just because it's not like a straight-up, pure competitive fighting game doesn't mean it still can't be great. If people enjoy playing it, then that's what really matters at the end of the day. It's true. People have more standards now. Like, you don't know if people are gonna accept the character be a reskin anymore. They will. So 50-50, right? People will, because it's Dragon Ball. They just love the series so much that a lot of the time they're willing to look past the quality of the game altogether. Also, on top of that, is something that we're not talking about, is that I'm pretty sure the previous Tenkaichi games. Thank you for the tier 1. That's a sub badge upgrade too. But I'm pretty sure the Tenkaichi games are carried by modders, are they not? I imagine that it will end up like that eventually for this game too, once the dev cycle stops. Even maybe even before dev cycle stops. People might just go ham with mods and shit. You kind of try to create their own path. I don't know. I think that's a beautiful thing when that happens though. Like when a community takes the game into their own hands, like it doesn't necessarily have to be modding, but like when people are at peace with what the game has to offer, and you know, they're actually willing to build off of what it has to offer. I think that's like where you want to get. I mean, the best communities for fighting games are games that are not patched anymore. Honestly, the best communities are the ones that for games that aren't patched. They're no longer patched. It's just like that. It doesn't matter if it's One Piece or Naruto, they will handle it horribly. It's Bandai. I don't have a lot of faith in this company, to be honest. You don't think you're at a point where people could expect more out of BT4? People are gonna buy it, Otto. Like, you don't understand. You don't understand, right? Bandai, and I cannot stress this enough, Bandai does not give a fuck about any of you. And I mean that with every fiber of my being. They don't care about you at all. As long as they get you to buy the game and buy whatever DLC is in the game, they don't give a fuck about your quality of life. How do I know this? Look at this game. Look at look at this game. So it's like there has to be enough people that will buy it no matter what for them to even be able to justify releasing this game in the first place, right? Right? There has to be, like, they know it's a money printer. They know that 100%. And that's what I mean by, like, they don't have to care about the quality of game at all, because it has that much of just a following. It's ugly. I wish it wasn't that way, but system mechanic changes, better net code, more maps, more DLC. For what? Connect for, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't keep up to speed with like a lot of the arena fighters, so you'll have to forgive me. I don't know how the Naruto Storm community is doing with everything that's going on. BT4 is the first Tenkaichi game in the DLC Battle Pass era. Yeah, that's something to consider. Yeah. Didn't they take some changes right out of the Ultimate DBSE mod? It appears that way. That's what I mean by lazy, right? They didn't even come up with it themselves. They're just like, let's just yoink this shit real quick. Throw something together. This patch was literally the shut the fuck up patch. Stop asking us for shit. Here, take this fucking patch. Don't ask us about no fucking rollback, bro. Don't remind us how long it's been since we announced rollback. Don't do that. Take this fucking patch. Shut up. The only way you can break away from this, though, is by educating people. Like, that's the whole purpose of this talk, is to really try to get you guys to understand not only where I'm coming from, but why I think, like, the trajectory just doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. And if I had the power to change it, I would. I wish I had the power to change it. I don't, though. I don't. And so, like, it's got to be you guys. You gotta speak with your actions. Bandai's community management for Tekken is literally don't ask me for shit. It'd be like that. But even Tekken is in a much better spot, though. Like, what's gonna happen in the World Tour? Are you guys excited for a World Tour? How excited are you for the World Tour? How many of you even remember that there was gonna be another World Tour? How many? Show of hands? Anyone? You wonder which patch is going to be for the World Tour? I mean, I assume, once again, we don't have any information on this, by the way, which is pretty fucked up. But I assume that the World Tour will start at Evo again. And my intuition tells me that they're going to try to drop a patch right before Evo. And if it's anything like the last patch, it will be at the literal worst time ever. Because, oh yeah, I guess I didn't bring this up to you guys, but did you notice how the last patch, that like the patch that's current, right? It dropped at the literal worst time possible. There like literally isn't worse timing. They had like, I cannot think of a worse time for them to drop the patch. Like the worst time, It was the week of Combo Breaker, so Combo Breaker couldn't even showcase it. They had to play on the old patch. And a week and a half before Street Fighter. What? The How? How? Crazy. You'll watch it. You have a fresh appreciation coming back to the game right at the end of Lab Coat era. No, people are going to watch it. I don't like. I'm not saying that everyone's gonna quit playing the game. It's gonna have no players. Like I said, I don't think that's possible for a game with this strong of an IP. But I'm saying what could have been just makes me so like, it bothers me. It bothers me so much. Like we're so far off the path of the best case scenario. It's like, how? It should have been a putt situation. They could have just tapped it in. They pulled off the driver on the green and just cranked that shit into the water, bro. Like, I just don't even. Is it? It bothers us much more than the company who made it. Yeah. Well, that's because they got your money already. They got your money already. I'm a golf enjoyer. Yeah, I like golf. Golf is cool. Rollback would have made people much more excited for a world tour. Yeah, crazy concept, right? Let's talk about the concept of a world tour, where the point is that people from all around the world get to participate in these competitions. You know what would have made that much more exciting? If people around the world could play against more people around the world. How do you practice to the point, like if you live in an underprivileged region for the game, right, and you don't have a lot of players around you, how can you justify traveling the world and going to an international event if you can't even like practice in good conditions, right? There's some people out there that are very, very good at this game that a lot of you probably have not heard of. I've never gotten to really showcase themselves on a stage like that because the netcode's bad. So they can only play against people in their own region. They don't ever get to branch out. They don't get any spotlight. There's a lot of people like that, actually. It's like that. It's like that for every fighting game, but especially for fighting games with bad netcode. They're just really stifled. Right? They have no options. They're secluded. But here we are. At this point, I feel like Rollback is going to get re-announced to Evo. And once again, it'll just be a beta. So like they're gonna announce the beta, and then people are gonna play the beta, and then they're gonna have to wait a really long time for the actual implementation to come out, because the way that it's supposed to work is the beta drops, people play it, they take the data and the feedback from it, and then they make the actual final implementation, right? Well, since the beta got delayed itself, it's gonna take a while. So we could be looking at potential next World Finals for actual full rollback implementation, and that is not a pleasant prospect. You're hoping to re-announce the cell screen? Yeah, they know what people are here for, bro. Is it? They know what people are here for. Y'all like cell screams, right?